Welcome to the Relocated South African, the show for navigating immigration from South Africa for a better future. I'm your host, Jan Hugo from Lagos in Portugal. Check out our website, www.therelocatedSouthAfrican.com. It contains a whole lot of useful information and details of all episodes to date. If you want to interact with us or comment on our discussions or even participate in an interview, please contact me on jan@therelocatedSouthAfrican.com. Also, if you like our content, why not subscribe on your favorite platform? So tonight I'm very pleased to welcome to the show, and this, I have to say, is my first interview with a person in Sweden. Welcome, Wendy Carlsson.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, fantastic. Just, Wendy, before we started, you were talking about being in the country. Maybe you can explain to us exactly where you are in Sweden.
We live in a town in Sweden called Altoona. And this little town is about, well, it's not really a town, it's a village. It's about 45 to 60 minutes out of Stockholm. And our closest bigger town is Enköping. So we're in the countryside with one other neighbor, Dutch neighbors, on the other side of the road. And we live on a small holding that's in the forest, about between 7,000 and 10,000 square meters of open fields, a little bit of forest. So yes, that's where we are.
And you've already had snow?
Yes, we have. We have had snow. We had snow last week. Funny that we had from one day to the next. We went from 8 degrees, we went to minus 15 the next day. We've had snow melted. We're 5 degrees at the moment, which is warm. It's warm. It's a warm evening in Sweden. So yes, that's the weather for us for now, for the dark November into December.
Yeah, and Wendy did say that the fiber internet has not arrived in the countryside yet. So if we have some connection issues, we will apologize. But maybe just to start, Wendy, just give us a bit of a history and background. Where did you grow up, go to school? And interesting, how did you end up living in Sweden today?
Okay, I was born in 1966. I'm 59 years old. Born in Athlone, a typical colored community in Cape Town. One of 4 siblings and 2 step siblings. I went to school, many different schools in Athlone as well as in Kensington. We moved around quite a bit. We were quite a gypsy kind of family. And in my last high school years was spent in a little town called Strandfontein, which is just next to Mitchell's Plain, where during the group areas we had been moved to that part of Cape Town, out of the central Cape Town. So this township was built in the late 70s, early 80s. And that's where I finished my high school in 1984. So that's a bit of myself and 4 siblings at home. And mother and father. My mom was a housewife and my dad was a walker. So he sold fresh fish, snoek and hake. He sold. Do you know snoek?
Absolutely.
You know that fish?
Yeah.
You know snoek, okay?
Of course.
Okay, so you know snoek. My father was the fisherman that came around from door to door with a fish horn, blowing the fish horn, obviously in our areas closer to us. And so he had one vehicle for fresh fish and another vehicle for fruit and vegetables. So that was our that was our growing up, going to Cork Bay to get the fish, helping him count out the money at night time when we came home from selling. So that was my kind of upbringing earlier years.
Well, fascinating, Wendy. And after school, did you start working?
Yes, I started working. My dad died in 1981 when I was 15 years old. He had cancer. So I finished high school. I was lucky enough of the 4 of us to finish high school. My older brother finished then they called it JC. So he finished standard 8. My brother that was younger than me, he also finished standard 8. I finished high school, and we had a younger sister. We have a younger sister who was 9. He's 9 years younger than me. Anyway, so after school, finished matric, passed matric, and before that, when my father had died, I started working as a casual at OK Bazaars. You know OK Bazaars? Candy the candy stripe uniform at OK Bazaar. So I worked as a casual on a Friday and a Saturday. In those days, shops weren't open on a Sunday yet. So I worked in OK Bazaars in Mitchell's Plain, and I matriculated and then went on to try and find a job. My mom obviously needed the income, and I got a job in a printing company as an invoice typist. So I would do invoice typing. From there, I did various jobs. The next job was at an advertising agency in administration. But my background after that, I had Lisa, my daughter, in 1991, and I opted to go into sales because sales, there was a better opportunity in terms of having a better income. So you'd at least have commission to add to a better salary. But that was my foundation.
Okay. Amazing. That's fascinating. And Wendy, your partner is now your husband. When do you meet?
So Lisa's father, my daughter, was born in 1991. I divorced her father 2000, and we were on our own from then, Lisa and I. I met Lars in 2017. So I met Lars 2017. I met him in Spain, Marbella. I decided after Lisa turned 25, I decided that I was going to do something really wild, sold everything I owned. I didn't own a house at the time, but sold my knickknacks and my car and decided to go do a TEFL course in Spain. I thought, right, Wendy, do something totally different, out of the norm. And I'd always been a traveler, and I'd been a reader, and I think when you're a reader, you become a storyteller, and I'd always had this wanderlust to travel. And I backpedaling a little bit in the year 2000. I divorced Lisa's father in 1999. 2000, I took her on a trip I made some extra money, and I took her on a trip to the States and to Disney World. And once that travel bug hit, I was just wanting to travel. Anyway, fast forward then to looking after Lisa on my own, taking care of her. I was in sales. I did sales for a while, and then 2017, I decided to sell everything and go and do a TEFL course in Malika, and that's where I met Lars. Met Lars in online.
Okay,
online.
TEFL that's the English teacher.
English as a foreign language, yes.
Okay.
So you go and do an in-person teach English as a foreign language course, which was interesting because you'd actually go and teach Spanish people to speak English. And you do half day you would do theory, and half day you would actually do teaching, the actual teaching. So met Lars while I was there, and back and forth from I hadn't thought that I'd meet a Swede, or Sweden wasn't even on my radar. But I'd come to Sweden to visit him. He'd come to South Africa with his 2 sons to visit me. And eventually he asked me to move to Sweden. And well, at the time, because after Spain, I went back to Cape Town. Lisa told me that she was going to have a baby. So I went back to Cape Town after spending 4 months in Spain. And after seeing Lars a couple of times back and forth, spent a couple of months here, he asked me to move here. And I decided, well, why not? And that's where I don't know if it was pure craziness or courage on my part, but yes, I moved to Sweden. It took 9 months for the paperwork to be okayed. So I got a spousal visa, just moving to somebody that you're going to live with. In 2019, I moved to Sweden.
Wow. One
Yeah.
brave lady.
I don't know about brave, most probably. Thank you though for the compliment, but a combination of brave and crazy, courageous, all those words come to mind. But
Well,
yeah,
life is so short that one has to do these things, and I'm sure you haven't looked back. So your daughter is still in South Africa, and your grandchild?
yes, my daughter is in South Africa with she now has two grandchildren because Franco Leah is 8 and Franco was born 2020 during COVID.
Okay.
So Franco's 5 years old now, and Leah's 8. And yes, thank God for video calling and for being able to see them. I travel to South Africa quite regularly. This year I've been twice. I usually go once per year. I went twice this year because I wanted to surprise Leah on her 8th birthday in September. So that was nice to be able to do that. So yeah, still in South Africa.
That is fantastic. And so tell us about life in Sweden. What's that like?
Life in Sweden has been wonderful, a wonderful growth, perfect growth for me in that in a in a world where you don't have to worry about safety, about security, I think that you then create the capacity to learn other things. I think this peace that I sought and found here is something that money can't buy. Seeing children, I still am amazed with seeing children walking through the woods or cycling through the streets on their own. It's quite a sight to behold. Sweden has also offered me this opportunity to start this business, which I love, because think about me cleaning houses. And while I'm cleaning houses, I can listen to your podcast. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, so I mean, as you told me offline before we started about your business, so and that's fascinating. So maybe just tell the listeners what you do.
Yes. Yes. So I came to Sweden in 2019, and after trying to get a job, I realized that without the Swedish language, I wasn't going to be a successful in getting a job. English is the second language of the Swedes, but obviously they prefer and choose to speak Swedish and we're in Sweden. So after trying to get a couple of jobs, I looked at what cleaning people were being paid, and I started my own business. So went through the red tape of getting a VAT number and designing my own little logo. I've called it Enviro. I called it EnviroClean, and EnviroClean is now 6 years old. So
Fantastic. And do you do
yeah.
it just in your area, or do you go further afield?
So I've got a few clients in Stockholm. So I do like a day in Stockholm, or yes, one day a month in Stockholm, because those clients only want once a month cleaning. Most of my clients opt for twice a month cleaning, which is every 2 weeks, but it's about 30 minutes away from where we stay.
Okay.
So before we bought this house that we're in now, this country house, we used to stay in a town. So the town is 30 kilometers away. But yeah, so that's what I do. While I'm busy cleaning, I'm listening to podcasts, whether it's Young Hugo on a Relocated South African or Diary of a CEO. I'm being paid to listen to podcasts, literally.
I like him as well. I also listen to that one. Yep. And Wendy, I mean, the obvious question that we always ask people who live in the Northern Hemisphere. I had people from Norway the other day. He sent me a message last night to say they just have rain. They haven't had snow yet, but it's coming. It will come. But have you adapted to the cold winters?
And I think another lady the lady from Norway said there's no such thing as bad weather, there's bad clothing.
Yeah.
So when you got the right clothing, it's all okay. But funnily enough, I think that the big thing for me is the light, the loss of light. So this morning at 20 to 8, it was pitch dark, and by 2:30, 3 o'clock, it's starting to get dark in the afternoon already. So it's the lack of light. I think I miss the sunshine so much. The lack of sunshine is what actually can make you really depressed. The cold, it can get bitterly cold. It's a different kind of cold, into your bones, icy cold. And it was quite a thing to know that you need snow tires, you need winter tires, you need, when you buy a vehicle, you must, do you have winter and summer tires? Sweden is an acquired taste in terms of course, it's not going to be the same as South Africa. Nowhere else is quite like South Africa. You know, I'm proudly South African. I love Cape Town. I love the people. You know, I love hearing when you're at the airport and you hear somebody without accent, you have to talk to them and say, hello, are you from South Africa? But the different opportunities that Europe has to offer, it's just amazing what you can build here if you want to work and choose to work hard. So it's such a big difference. And the weather is, you know, you adapt. First, it's my 6th year, and it's the first year where I'm welcoming winter with a cozy.
That's excellent. So, and I mean, talk to us about food and what's a typical Swedish dish that we wouldn't know.
Yes. Now, I'm married to Lars Carlsson, is your typical Swedish man, and he loves his Swedish food. He was born on a farm close to where we stay now. And it's funny that he's come home now to where he used to live as a child. But he's the cook in the family, so he likes to make his Swedish meatballs. You know, you usually get them at IKEA.
Oh,
Swedish
we've got one.
Do you? Do you? Okay, so the Swedish
I go there
meatballs
for
is
the
a
meatballs.
yes, it's a classic Swedish meatballs, but sometimes they make stew because, you know, I like my stew. I come from a proper, my mother was Afrikaans and we used to eat stews. And so he would cook a stew as well, and so would I. He just doesn't understand why you would put potatoes with meat, which I say, you know, Swedish.
That's why.
That's what. Yeah, that's what. It says, why do you want to can't have potatoes as well as rice? Say, well, I'm South African, you know. But we have a good rhythm going, you know. When you're older and you fall in love, it's a different kind of love. It's a more we have a lot of funny stories. We have a lot of fun together here in the countryside. He's built a sauna in the barn, so we have a sauna, and we create our own little garden with potatoes. Of course, he wants potatoes, so potatoes and herbs. And so yes, Sweden has been an interesting transition. People are slow to warm, like the weather. They're slow to warm. But once you have a connection, you know, with the Swedes, you're trusted, you're respected, you're very respected. And, you know, if you're going to a restaurant for lunch, you will have the street sweeper and the accountant sitting at the same restaurant having lunch, because the street sweeper can afford to have eat lunch out. So it was a different adjustment. The adjustment, like going to church and worrying about my coat being stolen at the back of the church, and laughing at myself afterwards to say, it's not going to be stolen, Wendy. Everybody else's coat is hanging out there. Why would they hang their coats out there? You know. So yes, it's been I have a lot of conversations in my head where I just laugh at the you know, differences and the way one thinks. But it's incredibly sad for me not to be with my daughter in my country. And I've chosen to come. It hasn't been that I've come because of safety. The safety factor, twice I was, you know, they did the smash and grab with me when I was in South Africa. Nobody came to help. People are scared. But yes, South Africa has changed so much. We can't deny that we had a tough apartheid to deal with. So unfortunately, and we have to mention that we had the pre-democratic South Africa was tough with the transition is tough now, because, you know, we're trying, and the government is trying to get the country in a better state. So yes, it's sad that we have to leave to have a better future, especially for the safety and the violence that's happening in South Africa.
Especially where the area where you lived and went to school today, you see a lot of bad news about that and the violence and the gangs and so on. So
A lot. And, you know, the focus is not to be a victim. The focus is to relay facts. The facts are that there was a really difficult transition and still is a difficult transition happening in the country. Of course, I want to see our country. We all want to see our country to flourish. I've got family there. Most of us who are expats, we have families in South Africa, Cape Town. So yes, I've seen quite my share of violence and the 1976 riots. I mean, we lived in an interesting time. We're living in such an interesting time through South Africa, seeing the apartheid as well as seeing the post-apartheid. So yes, it is sad. It's sad for me. I wake up on Sundays and I'm sad because Sundays are the days I miss my daughter the most. People say, why don't you bring your daughter over to Sweden? Not as easy as just bringing her over here. It doesn't work that way unless she's an adult. I can't just bring her over to Sweden. I wish I could because I would love to see my grandchildren running around in the in the countryside here. So
no, it's very sad. It's very sad. And Christmas time coming, it's sad for everyone, being away from family and not being able to be close to friends and family. And I always say we have so many days on earth, and it's tough when you can't spend those days with the loved ones. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Just another question: the cost of living in Sweden. How do you find that? It's expensive.
It's expensive. It's expensive, but it's all relative to your earnings. It's all relative to what you earn. The interest rate is low. So when I purchased, half of my house I purchased with my husband, the interest rate was 2.75% interest rate. Interest rate is low, but food is expensive. A loaf of bread is about 60, 70 rand. I'm telling you in rands because it's easier to relate. And I'm not sure if Portugal is cheaper than Sweden. Yeah, much cheaper than Sweden. Travel is lovely because I like to travel. I mean, I go to Italy every year. I go to Italy. I've been to Porto in Portugal. I've been to Denmark. So it's easy to travel and there's that opportunity. Food is expensive and we opt not to eat out as much. Also, I think in terms of if we're going to have 10 meals out, and I can take that 10 meals money and buy a ticket to Cape Town, I'd rather opt for the ticket to Cape Town than spending that on eating out. But yeah, it's kind of bittersweet, because I feel like I don't 100% belong here, and when I'm in Cape Town, I don't 100% belong there.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can really relate to that. It's very true. On that score, have you got South African friends in Sweden? I guess out in the countryside, probably not.
Not in the countryside, no. I think in our town there are 3 South Africans in our town, but I've got South African friends in Stockholm, quite a few, about 5, 6, 7, yeah. But it's funny that also when you move countries and you go to the South African meetings, it's not everybody that's going to be your friend that you're going to gel with. So maybe you meet 20 and 2 you really jive with. And as you get older, you also feel that you don't need the quantity. You prefer to have smaller quality friends and a smaller group as you get older, because I become quite selfish with my time, and who I spend my time with. So that changes, but there's quite a big South African community. There are. What did we do? We did Lars and I were looking. I think there are 2,000 South Africans in Sweden.
The other side, you did talk about Swedes, and when it takes time for them to warm. So you obviously then have Swedish friends. The big question: have you taught Lars to braai?
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. I'm so bossy because sometimes I try to take over. So I try to hang back a little bit, and he loves to braai. He loves his beer and taught him a couple of swear words too, of course, that you have to do. Teach him a couple of swear words. But we've also built a community of other immigrants. I think that's important, you know.
Okay.
So I find that I need a community and I need people around me. So I've adopted an adult daughter who's from Rwanda with a husband and 2 children, and I'm like the stand-in mother for mom for her. She calls me Mama Wendy, and I'm stand-in grandmother for her 2 children. And I've got my other friend Anna that's from Cyprus, and my other friend Tahira that's from Zimbabwe, and my other friend that's from Poland, you know, and each friend, you know, you connect with and we talk about, and it can get quite sad because each person has the same story. Like, how do you come to be here? How do you feel about home? How do you feel about fitting in, you know? And sometimes, you know, you don't fit in, and that's also okay. You know, that's also
No, I
okay.
hear you. But I think that's fantastic because it just comes out in every conversation. If you continuously sit and miss South Africa and hate where you are, you're going to want to go back. So you really, and it takes a lot out of you to go back. And then you get there and you say, oh, I really shouldn't have gone back, you know. So I think it's very good that you're fitting in and making an effort and be part of a community, because that's ultimately what it's about. And I think a lot of people have each other, you know, it's you and Lars, and you
Yes.
two make your own journey. And I think that's critical. You know, you've got to, because sometimes when one person's up, the other one's down, and the other way around. So that's very important. So if you think back on your journey of leaving South Africa, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Definitely would have learned to speak more Swedish before I got here. Would have I would have definitely learned to speak more Swedish, especially while I was waiting for the visa to be approved. It was 9 months. But you know, it's so different in terms of all your other guests. They came with their families, their spouses, they came and they had to plan with if they came with children. You know, I was lucky enough to come to Lars, who already had the infrastructure, and he already, you know, he had obviously he's Swedish, so he already is established in the country. So luckily, I had him, and I had him to lean on in terms of the business that I started. So I can't take all the credit for that. Definitely, I have Lars to thank. But in doing anything differently, no, I'd still be that silly girl standing at Cape Town International with a case, thinking everybody's going to be so lovely and welcoming when you get here. I wouldn't change anything, because if I'd known how cold it was going to be or how hard it was going to be, I possibly would have not come.
That's very true. That's true. And I mean, you've obviously said, I always ask this question, you said that you would love to have your daughter there, but apart, other than her and your grandkids, if you could ship something from South Africa tomorrow, what would you bring across?
What would I bring across? Oh, eat some more biscuits, cook sisters, cross and blackwell mayonnaise, cremora, coffee cream, you know.
That's so funny. My wife she talks about cross and blackwood all the time. She says the mayonnaise in Portugal is tasteless.
Yes, it's tasteless. And you know, when I come home, I wrap it in a thick jersey. I come home and now the jar's empty because I came home in September. The jar's empty, and I'm thinking, Lars, we need to try and make this mayonnaise at home, you know. But you know, there's nothing quite like a South African welcome. There's nothing quite like walking through the gate, the Cape Town, you know, when you come through and you hand in your passport and they say welcome home, you know, and you're smiling from ear to ear. There's nothing quite like that friendliness of South Africa. We have a very friendly nation, you know, and I like to try and keep eye contact when I walk past people, because I'm going to smile. I don't care whether you're going to smile back at me or not. I'm going to smile because where you go that's where you are. You have to bring something of yourself. So yes, besides the normal things that I would bring, I think, you know, I think that being here will make a difference to my daughter and my grandchildren's lives. I do think so. Next year, when I'm 60, I'm going to have a party in the countryside. God willing, my grandchildren and my daughter and her husband will come for the 60th birthday party of Wendy in the countryside.
I look forward to hearing all about that. That sounds like wonderful, wonderful idea. Maybe a last question. If somebody that you know, a young person or a friend of your daughter's, or somebody comes to you and says, what do you think? Should I stay in South Africa? Should I leave? What advice would you give them?
I would advise them to leave and see what it's like in another country, because it's so important to expand yourself.
Yeah, it's an adventure, and it, as you say, it just expands your horizon.
Yeah.
South Africa is a wonderful country, but it's great, and you know, you don't. Yeah, you can always go back, but it just makes you a richer person. I totally agree with that. It's
100%.
That's awesome. You just last question. You mentioned church. Is Sweden also Catholic, like a lot of European countries, or
No, not Catholic. More like Baptist church.
yeah, Protestant?
Baptist Anglican church.
Okay.
Many churches here. There's so many churches here.
Okay.
Of course, it's Swedish. It's Swedish churches, and then you also have, like in Stockholm, you'll have the Hillsong, and they will do English service, or they will have you can have put on a headset with translations in English. So yes, and yeah, it's quite an experience also to go to the different churches. I like doing that too.
Yeah, I can imagine. And how is your Swedish? Can you follow a church service in Swedish after 6
Yeah,
years?
I can follow a church service, yes. And if I don't, I just go to the reading in the Bible, and I just turn to the reading in the Bible. But a lot of the words are in Afrikaans. So my husband and I, when we started seeing each other, I mean, we only married 2 years now, but we're together for 7 years. When we just met each other and we went up to his cottage in the north, and he got so tired of speaking English, we were walking, and it was snowy, and he said, "Daar kom rook uit die skoorsteen." I looked at him and I said, "Daar kom rook uit die skoorsteen? I know what you say. There's smoke coming out of the chimney." He says, "Oh, there's hope for us yet."
Beautiful.
So a lot of words are Afrikaans based, so you can follow the gist. Yes,
now
we've
got Swedes here that we play golf with, but when they talk fast, it sounds almost like a kalkoen. I can't.
Exactly. It was tough in the beginning, but now it's better. It's better.
Okay, awesome. Well, what a note to finish on. Thank you, Wendy. Thanks for sharing. I mean, it's such a positive story, and
Thank you.
I think people will love listening to you, and I really appreciate you contacting us and chatting to us. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Enjoy it. Thank you. And watch out for the book. I'm writing a book.
Awesome. Oh, that's even better. So we look forward to hearing all about that.
Thank you, Jan. And if you're ever in Sweden, you're welcome.
Definitely contact you. That's one of the countries on my list. So yeah.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed my discussion with Wendy and would like to hear more about experiences of South Africans who have left South Africa, why not subscribe on your favorite platform? If you would like to share your own story, contact me on jan@therelocatedSouthAfrican.com. Until next time.